What deeply disturbing events did Justin Timberlake witness behind the closed doors of Diddy's mansion? Why did one of the biggest stars in music history finally break his silence after years of silence, risking everything to testify in a federal courtroom? As the Sean Diddy Combs trial continues to unfold, Timberlake's unexpected appearance as a witness is shaking the entertainment world to its core. What he revealed may forever change the way we look at the power dynamics within the music industry. From private parties at Diddy's legendary mansion to witnessing disturbing activities in what he called the backrooms, Timberlake's testimony unveils a shocking side of the industry. With his career, relationships, and reputation at stake, why did Timberlake choose now to speak out? And what did he see that made him realize that staying silent could no longer be an option? Keep watching as the story behind Timberlake's explosive testimony begins to unfold. As Timberlake took the stand, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. Known for his charisma and confident presence, the pop star was now visibly uncomfortable. Gone was the playful entertainer we're used to seeing on stage. What replaced him was a man haunted by his past experiences. Dressed conservatively in a dark suit, Timberlake seemed to distance himself from his public persona, taking on the role of a serious witness. The tension in the room was palpable as the prosecutor asked him to recall how he first met the defendant, Sean Diddy Combs. Timberlake recounted the early days of his career, admiring Diddy as a mentor and an industry titan. But what began as a hopeful connection soon turned into something far darker. Timberlake recalled attending Diddy's famous parties, where being in the right circles could elevate your career. Initially, everything seemed glamorous. The A-list guest list, the elite networking opportunities, the powerful figures all in one place. But then came the shift. It started with the privacy policies at Diddy's private gatherings. No phones, no photos, a policy that seemed excessive but was justified as a way to maintain privacy. Timberlake went from attending public events to increasingly exclusive, invitation-only gatherings at Diddy's mansion. It was here that the unease began to set in. As he was invited deeper into the inner circle, Timberlake noticed the increasingly strange behavior, things that didn't add up. What started as fun networking quickly turned into something more sinister behind closed doors. He was now seeing firsthand a side of the industry no one was meant to talk about, and soon he could no longer turn a blind eye. As Timberlake's testimony continued, the courtroom hung on his every word. He described a pivotal night in 2008 at Diddy's Los Angeles mansion, a moment that forever changed his perception of the music industry. What began as a typical party, filled with high-profile guests, took a drastic turn as the hours passed. Timberlake recalled a select group of people remaining at the mansion, and Diddy, ever the orchestrator, approached him with a chilling invitation. "Time to see how the real business happens," Diddy allegedly said, leading Timberlake to a more secluded part of the mansion, far from the main festivities. It was here that Timberlake's unease turned into something much more unsettling. He entered a room with enhanced acoustic treatments, an odd feature that didn't quite make sense until Diddy casually mentioned, "It's not to keep sound in, it's to make sure nothing gets out." Timberlake was now entering territory that didn't just feel exclusive, it felt wrong. What he witnessed in this room and others left him disturbed. He saw music executives and industry figures in compromising situations, some of them orchestrated by Diddy himself. Timberlake described the scene as choreographed, a carefully constructed environment where power dynamics, influence, and coercion were at play. There was always recording equipment, though it wasn't being used for the collaboration or content creation that was publicly expected. Instead, it seemed to capture moments that would never see the light of day, moments that Timberlake feared were being used as leverage for control. The gravity of what he had seen settled in. This wasn't just a party, it was a system of power, manipulation, and compromise. As Timberlake continued his testimony, he described how, over time, the events at Diddy's mansion became increasingly troubling. What initially seemed like an elaborate networking opportunity quickly turned into a game of manipulation and control. Timberlake recounted a later gathering in Miami, a more intimate affair that was marketed as an exclusive event for industry figures. Upon arriving, Timberlake noticed the familiar pattern. Phones were confiscated and security heightened, but this time something felt different. Diddy personally approached Timberlake and, with a friendly arm around his shoulders, led him through multiple locked doors to a separate, more private wing of the mansion. The room they entered was dimly lit, with a bar and seating arrangements that seemed more like a private lounge than a party venue. A select few were present, including high-ranking executives from Timberlake's record label, but what struck him most was the power dynamic. Some attendees were clearly there to enjoy themselves, while others were there to entertain. Timberlake noticed a disturbing shift in behavior. He observed young men and women who had been brought specifically for these private gatherings. Their interactions with industry heavyweights were fraught with uncomfortable power imbalances. The nature of the evening became increasingly inappropriate, and Timberlake felt himself caught in a moral conflict. He could no longer ignore the implications of what he was witnessing. After witnessing enough, Timberlake tried to remove himself from the situation. He recalled a private conversation with Diddy, who casually explained how these actions were part of how real business was done in the industry. It was a chilling moment that revealed the manipulation and control at play, one that Timberlake could no longer stay silent about. The turning point came when Timberlake was shown something that would forever alter his view of the industry. In a private conversation with Diddy, Timberlake was led into what seemed like a small office adjacent to the lounge. Diddy, amused by Timberlake's discomfort, allegedly revealed a sophisticated surveillance system. He showed Timberlake a tablet displaying footage of previous gatherings, including clips of industry figures in compromising situations. Timberlake was stunned. "This is how we know we can trust each other in this business," Diddy reportedly explained. "Everyone in that room has something on everyone else. That's how we know no one talks." The message was chilling and clear. Loyalty in Diddy's world wasn't just about business. It was about having something over others. Timberlake began to understand the dark side of the power dynamics he had only recently begun to witness. The system wasn't just about gaining influence, it was about creating leverage through compromising material that could later be used to control people in the industry. The idea of mutual assured destruction came into play, Diddy's way of maintaining control over his circle. Timberlake, though merely an observer in some instances, realized that simply being in those rooms made him complicit. He had witnessed how power in the music industry was maintained, not just through contracts and connections, but through subtle threats, recorded compromises, and a culture of silence. Timberlake, visibly shaken, concluded his testimony with the confession that he felt trapped in an industry that operated on these terms. Silence, he now admitted, had allowed these systems of manipulation to continue unchecked. As Timberlake's testimony entered its third hour, the gravity of his words was becoming clear to everyone in the courtroom. The details he was revealing painted a picture of an entertainment industry far more sinister than the public ever knew. He described the pervasive culture of manipulation and coercion that shaped the careers of many within the industry. The pressure to participate in these private, compromising gatherings wasn't just about personal gain. It was about survival within a system where loyalty to the power brokers like Diddy was non-negotiable. Timberlake shared his growing unease, explaining how he began distancing himself from Diddy's inner circle after the Miami incident. While he continued to maintain a cordial professional relationship with Diddy in public, he made it a point to avoid further private gatherings. Yet, even his attempts to withdraw were met with subtle reminders of the unspoken rules of the industry. Diddy would occasionally make comments that alluded to past encounters, keeping the pressure on Timberlake to stay in line, to remember where he came from, and to never forget the silent pact that had been made. What was most troubling for Timberlake was the realization that the system didn't just affect him, it affected everyone. Artists who distanced themselves from Diddy or the exclusive circles began to face professional consequences, stalled careers, broken collaborations, and negative media stories that suddenly appeared. Those who remained loyal, however, received benefits that were hard to deny. The power imbalance was now undeniable, and Timberlake's internal conflict had reached a breaking point. His testimony wasn't just about what he witnessed, it was about the deeper systemic issues that had kept these dangerous dynamics alive for so long. As Timberlake continued his testimony, the emotional toll of his decision to speak out became more apparent. His words were measured, but the weight of his confession was undeniable. He explained how his discomfort with the system of power and manipulation grew over the years, especially as he saw more artists and executives fall prey to similar pressures. The realization that silence had allowed these systems to perpetuate themselves haunted him, especially as he saw patterns of exploitation emerging in lawsuits and allegations against Diddy in recent years. Timberlake admitted to a profound moral crisis. He described how, over time, he convinced himself that staying quiet was the safest option, even after achieving a level of success that gave him some degree of independence. He justified his silence by telling himself that distancing himself from the inner circle was enough. But as more allegations came to light, the pattern became too glaring to ignore. Timberlake recounted reading testimonies from victims whose experiences mirrored what he had witnessed. The parallels were impossible to dismiss, and the guilt of staying silent became overwhelming. One particular turning point came when federal investigators reached out to him, showing him photographs of rooms he recognized and documents that corroborated his experiences. Timberlake knew then that his testimony could help connect the dots and establish patterns of behavior that were central to the allegations. The decision to cooperate with investigators was not easy, but Timberlake realized that his silence had, in some way, allowed the situation to continue unchecked. He knew that speaking out, despite the personal and professional risks, was the right thing to do. As Timberlake's testimony came to a close, the magnitude of what he had shared hung in the air. His willingness to step forward, despite the personal cost, has reshaped how we view power and manipulation in the entertainment industry. Timberlake's account, filled with disturbing details of coercion and control, has exposed the hidden forces that influence the careers of many in the industry. His courage to speak out may be the first step toward a broader reckoning within the music business. This trial is far from over, and more revelations are likely to follow. As the entertainment world grapples with these new truths, one thing is clear. The power structures that once seemed unbreakable are now being questioned. Make sure to like and subscribe for more updates on this groundbreaking case. Stay tuned as we continue to cover how this trial unfolds and what it means for the future of the music industry.